Hello, everyone. This is a video on Chapter 1, Ethics class. I am going to go ahead and share with you my screen. All right, so today we're going to be talking about this is an introduction to ethics in the helping profession and an introduction to professional ethics. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, why are ethics important? What are ethics in the counseling field? And why do we need them? So, ethical codes are there to help us make sure that we're serving clients in the best way possible. They're usually in alignment with the laws in each state. And they're really just there to help guide us make the best decisions we can for clients, especially when we're in maybe murky ethical water. So a lot of times we might be sitting in the gray area. So ethical codes and ethical decision-making models help us work through the gray area with our clients. So what are laws and ethics? A law defines the minimum standards society will tolerate and is enforced by government, and ethics represents the ideal standard set and is enforced by professional associations. And regulation occurs in all 50 states, and that's regulating practice. So these are the state licensing laws that establish the scope and practice of professionals and how these laws will be enforced. So in our state, it is the LPC board, so the Board for Licensed Professional Counselors. And the duties of the regulating boards are to determine standards for admission into the profession, screen applicants for applying for certification or licensure, regulating the practice of psychotherapy for the public good, conducting disciplinary proceedings involving violations of standards of professional conduct as defined by law. So the main thing is to protect the profession and to protect the clients served by the profession. So if there's a therapist out there doing things that are unethical or not in keeping with the standards of the profession, then the licensing board can step in. The licensing board is also there to make sure that everyone practicing and calling themselves a licensed professional counselor has the educational requirements and the practice and supervision requirements that all of that requires, which also upholds a level of care for clients. So let's take a look here, and I'm going to share with you. I'm going to make sure that I'm sharing the right thing here. So, yeah. All right. So this is the LPC board here in Texas. And this is important for you to know just in general, because there's a lot of important information here. So you can apply for your license, you can renew your license, you can find a licensee, so you can look someone up, like if you're looking for a counselor or a supervisor. Has opportunities for continuing education. There's a jurisprudence exam link. It talks a little bit about the profession, criminal history evaluation, and consumer information. It talks about HIPAA. So there's a lot of really important information here that you will want to take a look at, I would say now, because it might answer a lot of questions for you. Up here you can see, there's a complaint process, so you may want to look into what that looks like. Enforcement actions are public, so you'll be able to see kind of what may have happened in the counseling profession so far or lately, and rules and regulations and the statutes and the laws. So this is a really important resource source for you, and you will need to go to it pretty frequently once you start trying to enter the profession. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. But yeah, take a look at that link and explore that website, because that's going to be really important for you moving forward. All right, let's talk a little more about values, ethics, and morality. So values are beliefs and attitudes that provide direction to everyday living. These are the things that we live with all the time. They're usually taught to us in childhood, in schools, in churches, in our families, or in other, spiritual and religious institutions, as well as our communities. Then we have ethics. So ethics are moral principles adopted by an individual or group to provide rules of conduct. So these are moral principles that we live by, and they determine the rules. And then there's morality, and this is our perspectives of right and proper conduct. And our actions are evaluated on the basis of some broader cultural context or religious standards. So again, these are taught typically in our communities, in our schools, and in religious institutions, as well as families. Community standards define what is considered reasonable behavior when a case involving malpractice is litigated. So that's looking at the standards of the profession, the ethical codes, and what is considered reasonable. Reasonableness is the care that is ordinarily exercised by others practicing within that specialty in the professional community. So they're going to look at, are you acting in the norm for your profession? Or are you acting outside of what is considered reasonable? And then there's professionalism. So it has some relationship to ethical behavior, but it is possible to act unprofessionally and still not act unethically. So this makes me think of like the really crass lawyer with a heart of gold kind of thing. Like maybe their behavior is not typical or standard for what we would consider professional, but maybe they still have high ethical standards. And then we have mandatory ethics, and this is the minimum standard with which counselors must comply. So the basic do's and do nots, or musts and must nots in the profession. Example of that is providing informed consent to clients. So that is a minimum standard that all counselors must provide. And then we have aspirational ethics. And aspirational ethics are the highest professional standards of conduct to which counselors can aspire. And it's related to positive ethics and providing, for an example of that would be providing services pro bono for those in need. So there's the basic standards to which we have to adhere, and then there's the highest aspirational standard. All right, so we have principle ethics and virtue ethics. Principle ethics focuses on moral issues with the goal of solving a particular dilemma and establishing a framework to guide future ethical thinking and behavior. So, you're asking yourself, is this situation unethical? So maybe you're in a situation and you need some guidance. You would maybe follow an ethical decision-making model in this situation. Then there's virtue ethics, which focuses on character traits of the counselor and non-obligatory ideals. So you're asking on, a higher moral level, am I doing what's best for my client? And then we have the basic moral principles that guide decision-making. And those are autonomy. So we want to be adhering to these at all times when we're making decisions regarding ethics. And so we're asking ourselves, are we promoting autonomy in our clients? Are they making their own decisions? You're promoting self-determination, because we truly believe that clients know best, what's appropriate for them, and that they are the experts on their own lives. Beneficence. So are we doing good for others and promoting our clients' well-being? And then non-maleficence. Are we avoiding doing harm? And then there's justice. So are we being fair? Are we giving equally to others and treating others justly? Is there fidelity? We have fidelity to our client to make realistic commitments and keep those promises. And veracity. So we're truthful and honest with all of our clients. And then there are models of decision-making. You can seek out a variety of different decision-making models. There's usually a variety of steps that you can take. There is one for school counseling, the Stone model. We have here the feminist model, which calls for maximum involvement of the client at every stage of the process. And it's based on feminist principles that power should be equalized in the therapeutic relationship. So you're really looking at equity there and, giving the client autonomy. The transcultural integrative model addresses the need for including cultural factors in the process of resolving ethical dilemmas. And then there's the social constructionist model, which focuses primarily on the social aspects of decision-making and counseling, and redefines the ethical decision-making process as an interactive rather than an individual or intrapsychic process, and places the decision in the social context itself. So a lot of these ethical decision-making models you as the counselor would be using, but this one focuses on a social context. So in case you were kind of looking at that last slide wondering, like, what in the heck is she talking about? This is kind of what one looks like, and this is the one from the book. And there are steps in ethical decision-making as outlined here. So, many of these decision-making models are going to look very similar to this. So first, you're going to identify the problem or dilemma. You'll identify the potential issues involved, review the relevant ethics codes, know the applicable laws and regulations, obtain consultation, consider possible and probable courses of actions, enumerate the consequences of various decisions, and choose what appears to be the best course of action. So first things first, we always need to sit down and really think through, what are the problems I'm facing here? You may want to write them all down. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to know what you're facing. Second, you're going to identify the potential issues involved. You're going to ask yourself, are there legal issues involved? Are there ethical issues involved? Is anyone in danger of getting hurt? What are the ramifications for my license? What are the ramifications for the client? What's at stake here? Then you want to review the relevant ethics codes. So the ACA Code of Ethics is always a good choice. The ASCA code, and if you're doing couples therapy, maybe the Marriage and Family Therapy Code. You want to know the applicable laws and regulations. And I will point out here that if you're a member of the American Counseling Association, you can call their number and get legal help. So that's really cool. You can also do that through the Texas Counseling Association. So if you go to their website, you can call and get legal help. You need to ask, these questions. So let's say that you're in a situation where you're not sure what the law is. You've looked for the codes, or maybe you are sure what the law is, but your ethical code conflicts with the law, or you're not sure how to interpret a law. You can get legal advice. We always want to recommend that you follow the law first, because you are going to face consequences that could be really important, and you want to make sure that you're following that. And then you're looking at the ethical codes as well. So you want to obtain consultation. So that's also what I mentioned before in step 4. If you're calling to consult with an attorney, you're obtaining consultation. You also want to consult with other professionals that may have experience in this area, particularly as counselors and other types of professionals that could be helpful to you in this situation. And then you want to consider all the possible and probable courses of action. So consider all your options there. And then you're going to enumerate the consequences of various decisions. So spell out what the consequences could be, and then choose what appears to be the best course of action. So I know this all seems kind of like common sense, but if you've ever tried following an ethical decision-making model, you'll know that following these steps actually helps you be really thorough and helps you make sure that you're covering all your bases. All right, and then here are some professional organizations and code of ethics. So of course I've provided for you the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics and the American School Counseling Association Ethical Standards for School Counselors. You're also going to want to look at the National Board for Certified Counselors, or the NBCC, because a lot of you may go on to get your NCC, or your National Certified Counselor status. Actually, now they're calling it National Board Certified Counselors. because it sounds a little better than National Certified Counselor. There's the Commission on Rehabilitation of Counselor Certification, the APA, which is the American Psychological Association, and the American Psychiatric Association. And there are many others that you can take a look at. And these are all within our profession as well, or most of them are. So things to consider. That's all I have for you for chapter 1, but stay tuned and you'll get a lot more information as the class goes on. Again, if you ever have questions, feel free to contact me. If you need anything, just let me know. Thanks so much and have a great day.